I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Okay, looks like it works now. StreamYard's really finicky. If you plug StreamYard, if you open up StreamYard, if you go live with the stream, and at least from my experience, if I don't have the mic plugged in,
all good.
Thank you. Yeah, if I don't have the mic plugged in, then it won't recognize it if I plug it in. Like I have to unplug it and plug it in a few times. But anyway, there we go. What I was saying was, thanks to my wife for letting me know that all is well there. What I was saying was that I had an app actually downloaded to use my phone as my webcam, which is way better quality than this little, Logitech one that I bought, a while ago. But I forgot about it until the end there. So, till right beforehand, it was too late to get it set up and get the holder on and everything. So maybe next week will be a better webcam if I use my cell phone, because I'm going to try. I got a new stand for my cell phone in the car, so I'm going to try and go back to doing some car videos too, because that's so convenient. I commute everywhere anyway, so I can just do videos while I'm driving. So that's nice. But anyway, welcome to the Office Hours live stream. Welcome those of you who been waiting for a little bit. Great to see you all. See Ghost Planet Inc., Darth Enigma, Lynn Green talking about Wonder Woman. Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up about Wonder Woman. That's going to come up a little bit later, so I'll come back to that. But appreciate it. Studio Super, great to see you there. Eldritch Fan, good to see you. Yeah, Eldritch Fan, I saw your comment about that channel. I need to check it out. That's cool. Somebody, you wonder though how they can get away with that copyright wise. It's like it's got to be only a matter of time before someone pings them or takes them down or something like that, which is horrible. But yeah, I mean, come on, Disney, if you won't give us the unabridged audio of the EU, then darn it, we're going to do it ourselves. Andre Hernandez, welcome. Nathaniel Zalozball, good to see you there. Of course, my dear wife, Sound Engraver. And Leia Plus Size, Private Eye, Alec Purdue, great to see you. Good to see everybody there. Final Fantasy fan. So, as you see from the thumbnail there. Oh, good. Big Al popped in. Have a great stream. Appreciate that. Hope you have a great stream too as well there, Al. I don't know if it's on your channel this week or not, but I won't go too much over your time there. No worries. as you see from the thumbnail, talking about, from the pictures there, the wonderful character design of Poison Ivy from like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and then that awful, awful design of her in Arkham Knight. More recently, I had the example there of Mary Jane, and that one was the image of Mary Jane from Fortnite, of all things. But then that horrible, ugly Mary Jane that's apparently in Spider-Man 2. I didn't even think the Mary Jane in the first Spider-Man was all that great design-wise, certainly not character-wise, but it was 10 times better than that garbage they put in Spider-Man 2. That just looks awful. And a lot of other people have done videos and really, expounded on this and brought it to light that this is one of the things that the ideologues are doing. They are consciously trying, and it's the same thing they've done in comics and movies, etc. They're trying to uh, not play into traditional, ideas of beauty, trying to avert the male gaze, all this garbage, because the woke, want to get hold of your video games. They want to change everything. It's something you like. It's something that gives you attention. So they want to grab it and alter it into their platform, alter it into their preaching, their message that they want to put out into the world. And there are other things too, aspects. I'm sure, I know that this weird push to get everything so hyper realistic is just dumb, and that's hurting the designs too. That's a little harsh there. Um, that's part of it too. But uglying up female characters is only part of this. This is only part of this. The problem. There's a lot of other issues going on. Again, and I'm gonna other channels have really pointed this out much better than I've been able to, or much better than I'm gonna do now anyway. So I'll just kind of recap what you might have learned from other channels. I think, and again, Endymion did a review or talking about not a review, but he was talking about Spider-Man 2 and how this ridiculous push to get the woke, I forget ESG, ERG, I forget what the acronym stands for, but you get all these points on that on the woke meter there. They do these ridiculous things. And in Spider-Man 2, for example, one of the little side quests, or it's part of the main gameplay, apparently. You can't just choose not to do it. But Miles Morales as Spider-Man is Spider-Man, because he's not Spider-Man, as Spider-Man is needs to help this college student ask his gay boyfriend out to homecoming or something like that. Ask it, it's this gay couple, and you need to help one of them ask the other out to homecoming or something like that at college. And Demian was pointing out how the camera during that mission, like, you don't have control of the camera like you normally do through the game. Like, it forces you to sit there and watch that couple as they kiss and as they ask, do all this stuff. And that's part of this woke programming. Like, we are forcing you to accept this as norm. We're forcing you to focus on this. Now, the woke ideologue is going to come back and say, and maybe even some of you are saying that because you've been so programmed by woke ideologues. Well, I mean, that's not a bit. What are you, a bigot? Are you a bigot? Are you not for gay rights? You cannot let them define the argument like that. This instance has nothing to do with whether you're for gay rights or against gay rights. This has everything to do with the fact that that kind of social agenda preaching doesn't belong in a video game, and it hurts the game and it hurts the story. Spider-Man, any I don't accept Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Give him another name. Stop trying to call him Spider-Man 2, or whatever. Spider-Man doesn't have any business helping somebody ask somebody out. That's ridiculous. Gay, straight, whatever. Now, you can have Spider-Man helping a homeless shelter out. That's fine. Helping people helping somebody ask somebody out on a date, that doesn't make any sense. That's like a hole in the story. But shut up. It's a gay couple, so it's okay because we're trying to push that message. That's what this is about, and that's ridiculous. It hurts the gameplay, it lags into that, and it hurts the story. It's stupid, it doesn't make sense. That's just an example of how they are trying to program that with the uglier women characters. They're trying to program people. Now, a lot of people will say, well, they're not programming me. I see that and I think it's ridiculous. And they're not programming me. Did you play the game? Did you buy the game? Did you pirate the game? Did you talk about the game on social media? Did you go to all the channels reviewing the game so you could hear about what they're saying about the game? See, here's the thing. The woke ideologues aren't remotely interested. If you're somebody listening to me right now, if you're somebody listening to me who knows all this, knows these things I'm saying, you're like, you're right on, prof. You know, that's ridiculous how they try and program people. Then the woke ideologues aren't interested in you. They don't want, they know they will never convert you, but they don't care because you're going to die off. You're going to die off. They want the next generation. They want your kids. But even if you don't have kids, they want that next generation. So how do they make sure they get that next generation? They make sure they at least keep you talking about them. If they can keep you talking about them, and I don't just mean in general, like what I'm doing tonight, I mean talking about the specific games, each release, keeping it in the news, whether it's games or Rings of Power, let's do a review and try to trash and say what's wrong with every single episode. Well, good for you. You've just given them enormously free publicity. It doesn't matter if something like Rings of Power totally crashes and bombs in terms of money. It's in the public consciousness. And the next generation growing up, they don't have your grounding. They don't have your know-how about what the world used to be and how culture used to be. They don't have, a lot of them in the world, let's just face it, they don't have the attention span. They don't have this truth. They don't have this truth about what is good content and how story works. They don't grow up with that. They grow up with what's in the culture around them. Maybe those of you with kids, or you're lucky enough to be able to really um, you know, impart that truth into kids in your life, that's fine, but that's still not going to help the next generation. The woke don't care. They don't need to convert you. You can huff and puff and rah, 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 all you want and make your YouTube, money and give your super chats to all these other channels who are making you feel good, about fighting the good fight and so forth. Who cares? You're going to die off. All you've done is help them keep this in the public consciousness so that the next time around, when younger generations rise up, this becomes the norm. It slowly becomes the norm. It's normal eventually to have messaging in video games. That's just normal, something people will accept. It's normal to have female characters who don't look anything like a heroine archetype. It's normal. They've normalized it bit by bit by bit. And because you keep talking about it, because you keep making them relevant, they win. They win. And it doesn't matter how much you huff and gruff and talk about they're not programming me. Who cares? You're going to die. And they've got it in culture. They've got the next generation. They're playing the long game here. That's why I really just kind of raise my eyebrow at a lot of these arguments about we are winning this war. They are losing so much money. Even if, let's say, Disney totally goes under tomorrow and people come in and start doing movies where they're not so much trying to heavy-handed pander, they've still gained a lot of ground because they've established norms now that your average normie moviegoer or gamer or whatever aren't going to question because we've allowed it to seep into culture. And a great example of that, going back to Lynn's comment there about Wonder Woman, she was saying how she, looked up like AI arts generated Wonder Woman, like what's the consensus, what's popular culture's Wonder Woman these days, and popular culture, just your average person, Wonder Woman has a sword and a shield. That's just it. Wonder Woman is Xena Warrior Princess. This would be ridiculously unheard of 10 years ago. Absolutely unheard of. Wonder Woman was still, in popular culture anyway, that Linda Carter or that, for what you knew from the comics or the Super Friends or whatever. She was the heroine archetype. She was about bridging the boundaries and giving compassion there. And yeah, she could use a sword. She could use a spear. She's an Amazon, for crying out loud. She can use any weapon, she's trained to do it, but that's not her go-to. That's not what you would imagine if you just imagine the published consciousness's image of Wonder Woman. No, she's with her lasso. That's the tool. That's the weapon for Wonder Woman, because that is so symbolically linked to her. But now we've let that image seep into culture, and it doesn't matter how much you don't like it. It doesn't matter how much you speak against it. You've allowed it to seep into culture. And how did you allow it to seep into culture? And I know not every single one of you, but all of you who just gave a pass to the Wonder Woman movie. And I mean the first Wonder Woman movie. Oh, but that's Zack Snyder's not a part of that. They're trying to whatever. That movie had her sword and shield at every moment. It solidified. And then all of the stupid applause that people gave to that movie solidified that. That's Wonder Woman in culture now. That's how they win. That's how they win. Bit by bit, little by little, they'll take whatever ground you give them. They win. And all of this nonsense about, we're, yeah, they're going to go under. They're not worried about the profits, guys. They are not worried about the profits. They're worried about winning the culture war. And you're so focused on profits that you're just going to let them do it. It's really infuriating to those of us who see what's going on. Got a few super chats here. Let me get to these before they go too far up in the chat. Studio Super for $9.99 says it sounds like sexual conversion therapy. I thought they were against such things. From the sounds of it, that game basically held you by the head and went, look at it. Exactly. Yeah. It's it's funny that you mentioned sexual conversion therapy, because they're all about that, just in public schools, and what, talk about really trying to convert children. And I've talked about that before during Pride Month. I mean, how the culture these days takes so many teenagers, preteens, teenagers, who are normally 100% understandably confused about what's going on to their bodies, their hormones, they're changing. And at every corner they encounter, maybe that's because you're not really a man. Maybe that's because you're not really a girl. Maybe you should change. Maybe, absurd, but that's the kind of stuff that they'll feed kids these days, because they want the kids. If they can get the kids, they've won. You die off and you go bye-bye with all your grumblings and all your YouTube super chats. Who cares? It's really sad. Eldritch fan for 199, heterophobia is real. You're 100% right. Heterophobia. It's really, it's absurd. One of the comic creators, I think I just saw John De La Rosa. Yeah, John De La Rosa, just so you in the chat. Welcome. Maybe you know who I'm talking about. I can't remember who said it. I don't think it was Chuck Dixon. But maybe it was. But one of the comic creators, maybe it was like, I'm blinking on their names now. Elliot Fernandez, Elliot Fernandez. Maybe it was him that I heard talking about it. But in a comic book, if you've got a gang that's going to attack a victim, and the superhero is going to come and fight. If you've got a gang that's going to attack the victim, that gang, in a modern day comic book, that gang better be made up of equal parts white. In this point, it's probably even worse than this, but you can't. How dare you have an all black gang? No. You do not do that now. They must have white people, and you got to show that they're, no one race is bad, as though that's what you're trying to say. If you show again, look, if you are representing the real world, the real world's out there. There are black gangs, there are Hispanic gangs. Yes, there are white gangs. How many interracial gangs do you really see in that front? But you can have a group of thugs or whatever. But that's kind of these silly little rules, and they can't even hide behind, well, we're trying to really reflect the world around us, because they would have you believe that every second person you see on the street is gay or transsexual, and that simply isn't the case. Okay. If a story, if you're writing a story or whatever, and you've got a character who identifies as gay or transsexual or whatever, if it's organic to the story, if that's what that character really does, but see, that's not what they're doing. They're trying to overreachingly shoehorn that kind of stuff in to make you, if you can believe, if they can create a world through their fiction that makes you believe that's the truth, that's the norm, then they want life to imitate art. And I see art, I use that term very loosely there. It's very deceptive. It's very insidious what they're doing. Alec Purdue for $5, thank you, said, aren't we making them relevant with streams like this, though? Well, see, it's a fine line, and it's a good question to ask. It's a fine line to walk. And I've always said this. This has always been a topic that I bring up when I talk about, look, guys, stop reviewing, stop doing all this. We need to get the truth out there. But there's a difference between me talking about this phenomena or Endymion, the video, and I don't agree with everything Endymion says. I think we differ on a few things, but the video that I like a lot of his stuff. The video that he put out that I got this info about the Spider-Man scene, about asking the guy to prom or whatever, Homecoming, that wasn't a review of the game. It was an expose showing how games in general, and specifically Spider-Man, are doing this kind of stuff. Now that's not helping the sales. That's not helping the the cultural acceptance of Spider-Man 2. Reviews do, though. When everybody just fell all over themselves to get out their review of the Marvels, again, yeah, Marvel's failed and it's wonderful, but it didn't have to fail. Um, everybody did that for Suicide Squad too. The first garbage, Harley Quinn and Emancipation or whatever it was, or not Birds of Prey. I'm sorry, not Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey. And that makes it relevant because normies who wouldn't necessarily care or hear about the movie, they hear a real buzz going on around the movie. And even if they decide to go see the movie and don't like it, the movie's in their life now. Whatever messaging that game, film, whatever tried to put out, it's in their life now because enough buzz was going on about it, in terms of reviews or whatever. So there's room for a disagreement on that front. And I'm open to that. Or I'm always thinking about that discussion. How far is too far? Is it too far? I do think that one could do too many videos like this one, calling attention to how they're programming us. I do think you could do too many videos like that and it would cross that line as well. But at the same time, you got to get that message out there. You got to wake people up somehow and try to get them to turn their head from this stuff, make it irrelevant, you know? Yeah. So, Studio Super, thank you for this 999 super chat. It says their ideology is a self-defeating one. With same-sex, abortion, trans, sterilization, they're doing everything to ensure their side can't have kids, and if they succeed, that's it for their side. It's you were probably there. I don't know if you were there for one of my streams previously where I was talking about. I cut it out as a video too, where I'd said, I'd done a video before about how culture is trying to dissuade boys from really wanting to be men and the true meaning of that, the masculine genius, using your power to defend and protect and serve. And they're doing the same thing with women, that they don't want women, or they don't want girls to actually embrace what real genuine femininity is, what real genuine compassion and womanhood is, because womanhood as well as manhood is inextricably linked to motherhood and fatherhood, for men, womanhood for motherhood, and manhood for fatherhood. That doesn't mean you have to go be, as I said in that video, you don't have to be a biological mother or father, if that's not where your life takes you. But that role, that nurturing, that feminine genius is part of being an authentic woman, however that manifests in your life. And they don't want any part of that. And I talked about how, there's the whole auntie, the woke ideologues love to be aunties, don't be mothers, because then you can't serve yourself. Abort those babies so that you can work on your career. Don't be a mother. You think you have to like give of yourself to kids or whatever. No, don't do that. Be an auntie. Then you can program kids, but not really have to, give of yourself for them. So yeah, it's very relevant what you're saying there. Yeah, the there was some other stuff about that. The programming thing. It's like, and here's another example I had about it. I just started playing again the Guardians of the Galaxy game that was released recently because, as I've said before, I don't know how that game slipped through and made it out to a release, because that game is wonderful. There's no woke nonsense in it. 2022 release, can you believe it? And I think that's a big part of why we'll never get a sequel. I know there are, behind the scenes messages or stories about the company, this and that, or funding or whatever. But the game was, successful enough, and it was a wonderful game. People would eat up a sequel, but it doesn't do the right messaging, right? It wasn't Avengers, the bait and switch for Miss Marvel. It wasn't Spider-Man 2, with laden down with woke messaging. And I think that's a big part why it won't get a sequel. But even in that game, and I've been recently replaying it so Sound Engraver can watch it because she likes, seeing the stories of it. And she's loving it too. Even though there's no woke messaging, and the female characters are very pretty, they're very attractive. Gamora's attractive design. Mantis, heck, even, Peter Quill's mother, is an attractive, female character design, even with her 80s mullet thing going on there, But even it suffers limitations of the current day culture. There's alternate costumes that you can get, you can find around the world and whatnot for the different characters, and they really suck. I mean, other than like one or two here and there, for the different characters that, that's kind of cool, whatever. they really suck. And for a comic book character, you want to talk about alternate costumes for a comic book character, you should be getting all the epic ones from the comics. But they would never dream of bringing in like Gamora Space Barbarian costume from the comics. Oh, never. Not in today's culture. You can't have that, or whatever. And that's absurd. She's a comic book character. Yeah, no one's asking you to pose her like a sex kitten. No one's asking for a risque scene with her, but you put the imaging and you put the examples and the character design and the costumes that work for those characters, the ones that are symbolic. But you'll never see that. And that's the kind of thing too that I think, let's say, even if we won and got to the point where, like, another game like that would be released, and I'm not saying another game like that never will be released. I mean, maybe it can and hopefully it will, but we've given too much ground that we'll never go back and get little things that we should just, should go without saying that you get, like the proper character, alternate costumes and stuff like that. Um, you know, eh, I try not to be, as I've said before in last stream too, I try not to be all, super black pilled about it, but we need to be realistic. It's a good thing for these companies to go under. Sure. It's a good thing for these, um, pieces of media that they're putting out to not make a lot of money. That's great. It's a good thing to happen. But that doesn't win the war for us, and that doesn't fix everything. There's a lot of boots on the ground work in the culture that needs to be done. There are a lot of uncomfortable arguments and uncomfortable debates and uncomfortable conversations. There's a lot more people need to stand up and speak out against this stuff. And an example is what I told you, about that scene, for example, where the camera is fixed on this gay couple, asking each other out for homecoming. People need to be more bold and willing to say, hey, that's crap. That doesn't belong in the game. And recognize that immediately people are going to pile on you, you stupid homophobe, you bigot, you blah blah blah. Don't let them establish the rules and the boundaries of the conversation. The woke love that. The woke know they don't have logic on their side. Even those who don't consciously know it innately know it. That's why they want to strawman you. They thrive. They won't exist if they can't strawman you. That's all they do. Um, a great example, there was that comic, I forget his name, but that owner of the comic shop recently, who I think he had a YouTube channel or whatever, and he was talking about how comics just aren't selling and how his business is kind of going under because these comic writers keep inserting themselves into comics, inserting themselves into the woke messaging that they want to put in the comics. And a great example of that is like that Starfire one or something, even though it's a old example, but that's the kind of thing. And a lot of the um, usual suspects in the comic writing world just piled on this guy. And were they trying to have a logical argument with him? No, they were making fun of the way he looked. They were saying, you're not embracing the change. That's why your comic, shop isn't. Basically, you're a bigot, you're blah, 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 or whatever. That's how they argue. Mark Miller, for all people, I think Ethan Van Sciver did a video too. I hadn't watched it, but about Mark Miller was had that comic guy on his channel, I think, and was agreeing with him. And so, of course, he's got to be blacklisted too. It's really ridiculous. Oh, I see AL there. Missed you, AL. Sorry, I was making sure I get these super chats so they don't go away because I appreciate the support. Studio Super for $9.99 says, I'm working on a short comic for Twitter where my original character talks about politics in entertainment, what to do and not to do. Going to have fun illustrations, be funny and informative. That's great. And I'm sure you'll do a good job with that because I mean you've done really good art. I see your art on Twitter. It's really great stuff. But you do have to be careful with that kind of thing too. And I haven't really watched any of their original content, and I'm even blanking on the name right now. But who's the Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles? What's that channel called? What's their studio called? Jordan Peterson's doing some great things with them and stuff. I forget the name of that. You guys will throw it out there, but they do really great commentary and educational stuff, and I've watched a lot of that, and I like it. But I haven't really partaken of any of their Daily Wire. Thank you. I haven't really partaken of any of their fiction yet, so I don't know if their fiction would fall into this category. But you can be so reactionary against preaching, a message, you can be so reactionary against it that that's the reason for your story. Your reason for that story is that you're just giving the opposite side of the message, and that's the problem. The problem isn't that, oh, that was a gay scene and it should have been a straight scene. No, the problem is that it was a message trying to be preached that didn't fit in the story or the game, period. So and again, I'm not saying Daily Wire is like this. I'm just saying I'd be curious to see. But when they do a movie, consciously do a film about guns and stuff like that. On the one hand, you say, okay, that's good. They're getting the alternate message out there. But again, that's how propaganda happens, whether it's woke or anti woke or whatever. When you approach a story with the desire to get out a message, whatever that message is, rather than just to tell a good organic story. So then, like, we're going to do a version of Snow White, that doesn't have to be bad. If they really did an organic version from the fairy tale, it could be wonderful. But is that motivation? Is the motivation to tell the opposite side of the message? If that's overriding your motivation to tell a good story, then you're just another ideologue. You're just on the other side of the spectrum. That's how the woke became the very thing they hated. And this is something that people have talked about too. It's no real news, but I remember I was watching a little clip the other day of John Cleese had Rob Schneider on his show or whatever. He was interviewing him, and I just watched little clips of it, and they were talking about the ridiculous nature of everybody being offended about comedy and stuff like that, and why you don't even you'd never go to a comedy show at a college campus. It'd be absurd because all the little snowflakes would be offended and stuff. And they made the point, which is a good point, and we've made it before, but that some years ago it was the real strong conservatives that would get offended, or really ultra conservative, not every conservative, but the people who were really staunchly conservative. I mean that in the traditional sense, not even necessarily the political sense. I just mean these are things that you shall not joke about for us. You do not joke about religion. You do not joke about these things or that things. And they gave an example of like somebody did a joke about a cancer joke or something in a comedy club, and a lot of the people just got up and walked out because that's too far. Well, that used to be the really extreme conservative side. Now it's the extreme liberal side, the extreme woke. They fought against the evil monsters, your white hetero Christians who try to enforce their values on everybody. Well, that's what you've become. You've designed your own religion now, the anti that, and that's what you're doing now. You're forcing your religion on everybody. You become exactly that which you hate, and the way that happens is by reacting. And it's okay to react, but by letting your strong reaction against something drive your storytelling rather than just the desire to create a good story, a good organic story. Before I miss this, Alec Purdue, thank you for the super chat there. Said, may I suggest video games with great females to you? I mean, I know a lot of great video games with great females. I mean, I don't, yeah, they're out there. I mean, I know you talk about them a lot too. And, but the thing is too, you don't feel like, and I'm not saying you, Alec Purdue, I'm just saying for the average person here, don't feel like you've got to go support or buy games with strong females. Like, I'm a man. I don't really like playing as a female. I don't, because I'm a man, and that's okay. That is 100% okay. I just played through Knights of the Old Republic 2 again, so that Sound Engraver could see the whole story. And even though I know that it's Mitra Surik, she's a woman, that's the canon in the EU, and I accept that in the EU canon. It works fine with me. But if I'm going to play through the game, I'm going to play a male because I just don't want to play a woman character. I don't, that's not fun. And not that it can't be fun. I've never really been a Tomb Raider person, for example, but I could see how, playing a character like that here and there could be fun. I'm not saying I would never play a female character, but in general, that's just not something that appeals to me. And that is 100% okay. I am a man. I don't have to give myself equal time to play the female characters and make sure that all my games have good, strong female characters. And it's okay. It's okay to have games where there are no strong, independent female characters. What is it called? The Bechdel test or whatever about TV or movies. Some feminist, what's he ever? I think her name was Bechdel or something. But the test is like, in your story, do you have two women talking about something other than a man for so and so many minutes? And I just think that's so absurd. Like I'll have so much more respect for a story that doesn't pass that test. I mean, not because there's anything wrong with two women talking about to each other about. I mean, that's just if that organically happens in the story, fine. But just that kind of nonsense, trying to take, these parameters, these social value, these religious parameters, and impose them on media. They're nothing but the woke ideologues are just a bunch of angry fat early 80s televangelists talking about how the devil is on the airwaves. That's all they are. That is 100% what they are. They just have a different religion that they're ranting about. I mean, it's ridiculous. Um, Studio Super, thank you for the 999. Says it's basically just a 6-page. Oh, your comic there. It's just a PSA type comic giving advice to writers. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so you're not. It's an actual. The comic is actually designed to give advice to writers. That you're not trying to write like a story narrative. Well, that's cool. Yeah, and it even takes pointers from you about how you can have politics, but it should be analogous, um, aka fictional politics. Yeah, I appreciate that. It reminds me, Studio Super. Sound Engravers here. She will say the name of the channel if I forget it. But she shows me these clips from this channel called Bad Writing Advice or something like that. That the guy, it's ironic, right? So he's telling you to do this when that's actually the wrong thing to do, and it can be very funny, especially to editors like myself or people who study writing and learn how to write. It's like, make sure that you keep that scene that doesn't do anything to move the plot forward, but as long as you really love that scene, keep it in there. It was funny. um Dang, Owen Lister, man, you did not have to do that, my friend. No one has to do that, but it's very much appreciated. I can't let it go by without saying how much I appreciate it. 49.99 super chat. Dang, man. You said, I'm working on my own fantasy race for my fantasy Western. That's right. You've been talking to me about your fantasy Western, which is a cool idea. We talked about how awesome those two genres are when they meld. You said, I'm working on my own fantasy race for my fantasy Western, where the men and women have a lot of differences, but still complement each other. For example, the Lupinico, if I'm pronouncing that right, Lupineco, where the men have dog-like features and the women have more cat-like features. Yeah, that's the thing about, especially if it's a comic. I think you're working on a comic, right? Or it might be a prose story, but we're in the representational realm. It's not realism, in terms of even any fiction isn't, you can have realistic fiction, but it shouldn't be that real. You're recontextualizing. The great thing about fiction is you're recontextualizing daily struggles, especially genres, like fantasy Western, like you said, you're recontextualizing that. So that's a great way to give a visual cue. The men looking more, have dog-like features or whatever, and the women having more feline features like that. Because what you're telling people is that these are two, even though in real life dogs and cats don't mate, right? Dogs and cats aren't couples, um, but we have enough sayings about that. And we have enough of a cultural understanding about the symbolism. Women being very much feline, men being very much more given to that aggression or strength or assertiveness, that a dog might have or whatever. And you can pick holes in that. There's a funny stand-up comedian talks about how, men are really the cats, women are the dogs or whatever. But, that kind of thing you're doing is a great idea. And I don't know how you're going to, play it all out and everything, but that's a cool idea. You got some symbolism there to show people. So that's a cool idea. Andre Hernandez, thank you. What did I miss a super chat? I think I saw Eldritch fan first. I'm sorry, Eldritch fan for 499 said, I always play LSF Revan, light side Revan, and do the Karth. I'm sorry. The female Revan. Sorry, light side female Revan. LSF. Had to get there. I always play light side female Revan and do the Karth romance. What would gender ideologues think that says about me? Exactly, right? Oh, you're a closet transgender, all that kind of nonsense. Yeah, ridiculous. And that works. I'm not knocking anybody who likes to play the different options that the game gives you. And if you are a female Revan, then yeah, the Karth romance needs to happen. That's just, that's a given. The only thing, I would understand people more. And again, I'm not shaming anybody who does this. I'm just speaking from my own experience. I just can't see the interest in it. I would rather play, and I have played actually just to get the story of Knights of the Old Republic 2 with a female character. Like I wanted to experience the canon story in that game because there's no such thing as a novelization of the game, right? If you want that story at all, it has to be in a playthrough. Same thing with Knights of the Old Republic 1. So I played through, with a female character just to get the story. And it's fine. I mean, you can do it. I don't think I could ever play Dark Side though. I can't do that. And again, I know some people do, they just want to get the story or whatever. I just don't see the fun in that. To play a video game, and it's just me, I come at video gaming for the story. And I know that's not exactly, that's not at all what a lot of people approach video games for. A lot of them play, come for the gameplay or the graphics or whatever, and that's fine. But for me, it is story. And I'm so hyper aware or sensitive to what a story does for you, psychologically, and how spending time in this story, especially in an immersive game, a good narrative game where you really are forced to engage or empathize with and invest in the character, really identify with them to a certain degree. So even, and it's possible, of course, to play as a Sith or to do horrible things in a video game, and there is a detachment because it's not real, and that's fine. But I just can't. I don't know. Just never had an interest in that. That's why I've never really been big into the game, or not. Shoot, what is it called? Grand Theft Auto games. Um, I understand that they've been great, and that's wonderful. I did buy because it was like so long after it was released and it was on sale, the Grand Theft Auto 5, and I played through it a little bit. The graphics were amazing. It's fun, open world. I like driving around, and the music, getting ready, able to change the music to what you like and stuff. But try to play through the story a little bit, and I got up to the point where the first character, the young guy, is working now for the older guy, and they just go get his boat back from people who are wanting to, steal it or whatever. But it just wasn't fun to me because I'm playing bad guys. And I know that there's some moral ambiguity to it. I get that. I'm not saying they're all villainous, whatever. I don't know. It just the appeal for me has to be, you know, if it's not a character it doesn't have to be an aspirational character, but I have to be able to play that heroism in it. I like being Geralt in The Witcher. That was great. Sorry, you got me on a tangent there, Eldritch fan. Andre Hernandez for $5. Thank you. Said, how do you call them out and speak up, but not give them too much attention? If we don't call them out, isn't that how they win? You're absolutely right, Andre, and that's the balance that I said there. The best answer I have for you there, and it's a wonderful, it's a good question. It's an important question to ponder, and we shouldn't stop pondering it. My best answer at this point, though, is we need to keep calling out the phenomenons, calling out the methods, without going straight to the media entities themselves, reviewing just this episode or just this movie or just talking about this series. Now, I used to do that. And I think that at a time it was natural to think that might have some benefit, that you really could, change things and get the word out about this series or this movie or whatever. But I think we're to the point now where people just love consuming content, and they love the, as I said, this tabloid like nature of seeing people rip into a show or to a movie that's horrible. Oh, I can't wait to watch so and so review that or whatever, that it's self-defeating at this point. So that's my way of kind of walking that tightrope. But I'm always interested in what other people might, say about that. Eldritch fan says, I'm working on a Star Wars inspired story, and you decided me. Oh, in my universe, no female Jedi. Also in KOTOR, light side is more fun and a better story. Yeah, I mean, it's there is a dark side story to be told. They built that into the game, but yeah, I agree. No female Jedi. Interesting. That's cool. So Star Wars inspired story. You have to say more about that in live streams and whatnot. I'd be interested in let me know your development of that. Let me know your how that comes along, because that's a cool. I think more Star Wars inspired stories are a good thing. They're certainly not telling the good stories. We might as well. Studio Super, thank you very much. Part 1 of a second chat I guess you're working on said, if you put fictional politics in your story, it takes work. Exactly. But it shows thought and tells audiences your world is worth investing in. And I'll see your part 2 of that in a second, but I just want to comment on that much. You're absolutely right. it's so much more interesting to put fictional politics in your story, and it has to be fictional politics that isn't just a thinly veiled disguise of some real world issue, you know? Again, it's the difference between recontextualizing real life issues and just putting them in as allegories. You know, allegories is bad writing. You know, allegory is just kind of silly. You know, it's worked in literature before. You know, well, even this wasn't really an allegory. This was more of a I would say it's kind of I would argue it's kind of a recontextualization in Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels, when he goes to meet the Lilliputians, and he talks about the two different sides of the Lilliputian culture. One eats their egg up on its end, and the other eats their hard-boiled eggs on another end. And these two cannot agree on this, and this is a very dire, issue or whatever. And he's kind of pointing out the way that, like Catholic versus Anglican, was a big deal in his day. He was, from Ireland, especially to Northern Ireland and whatnot. And he's trying to make the comment, look, you're all egg eaters. Look, you're both not even just both religious people, not even just both people that believe in God, but you're both. Now there is a very real difference, and you can't just pretend that difference doesn't exist. But I mean, stop killing people over it, and stuff. So that kind of thing, I think, works. That kind of recontextualization. But that's a fictional politics, like you're saying. The other point about that before I move on, Stargate SG-1. I've been rewatching it myself because Sound Engraver's watching it through for the first time, and she's loving it. And it's the Air Force. So you've got a president, and this was, I guess, it was right around the time George W. Bush would have been in office, but they didn't actually name him. They didn't even leave it anonymous, like in the show. Sound Engraver will meet him eventually. You eventually do meet the president, and I think that's a good thing because in giving us a fictional president, then we had another character to play off of, and another character and you don't know what party they are or anything like that. It just helps the story. It deepens the story so much more. So yeah, I agree with you there about the fictional politics. Sean Boaheen, if I'm pronouncing that right, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Said on playing bad guys, I agree. Looking back at the Infamous games, I never finished the evil side story. I didn't enjoy it. Even DC Universe Online, I can't be evil. Yeah, I agree with you. I haven't played through the Infamous games enough to even know there was an evil side. But DC Universe Online, that was a lot of fun back in the day. I need to get back into those. I get lost a lot in MMOs because I only play MMOs for the storyline. I like the narrative, which is fine. I don't like grouping up with friends or, I like the narrative. I want to immerse in the fictional world. But it is a little harder in MMOs to really follow the right trail for the narrative. It's easy just to get kind of sidelined into this other quest or this other part of the story that, you should have actually done this first, and stuff. So I need to go back to DCU Online at some point, but that was a good one. Owen Lister said, I used to enjoy watching that content of people ripping into woke content, but lately I've been watching them less to where now I don't watch it anymore. It got boring and meaningless. Yeah, like I'm interested in people who have something new to say about it, or something interesting to say about it, or a slight different spin. But even that you can do too much of, I've gotten very sensitive to YouTubers who are just looking for them clicks. I feel like that's predatory, honestly. Yeah. Alec Producer, thanks for the great response tonight, Prof. I appreciate you taking the time to answer. Got to go now, unfortunately. Got to go do a double shift in the morning. Have a good night. Yeah. Have a good one there, Alec. Appreciate you popping in. And also, yeah, Alex got a new job. Well, I guess it's not so new anymore, but I never congratulated you on it, so congratulations on that. And Owen Lister, I saw that, was it you? I saw in a recent chat you're on your way to getting your license or whatever, or to being able to drive or something. That's pretty sweet. So congratulations on that. Yeah, a fictional story won't make your story seem dated. Yeah, if you're not going for a dated story. If you are, then that's fine. But yeah, that's a good one too. Make sure I didn't miss a super chat because there was Studio Supers Part 2. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it jumps. All right, so Studio Supers Part 2 super chat that I had missed. Let me read your Part 1 chat so I got your Part 2 all together because they're short. If you put fictional politics in your story, it takes work, but it shows thought. and tells audiences your world is worth investing in. Though, if you just slap real world politics in your fiction, it comes off as lazy, and it tells audiences your fictional world isn't as or even more interesting than the real one they are in. Yeah, and what it does, that's a good way of putting it. What it does for me is that it it tells me they don't really have a story to tell me. It tells me that they were really mad about an issue and they really wanted a platform to give their side of that issue. So maybe they're creative, maybe they had some good ideas, they threw together this story, but that's really what they wanted to do is give me their side of the issue. And it makes me, it's not that it's impossible, it's surely it is possible for somebody to have an actually good story as well, and maybe this little part of the message just slips in here and there. Agents of Shield did that from time to time. As well written as that show is, there are a couple times where they just couldn't hold back their Trump derangement, the writers and stuff. So it's not impossible to still tell a good story, which is some slips here and there, but it does make me very nervous, and I lose trust in the writer, or I lose confidence in them that they're really going to be able, that I'm in good hands, in terms of a storyteller. Yeah, I think I just got your second one there though. Yeah, I did. You were just telling me about that Studio Super. So yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Owen Lister Pastor Temps. That's awesome. That's good. Congratulations, sir. Gentle Savage, good to see you there. So if you ever had the time, it would be cool to see you review the Annihilation Conquest comics by Dan Abnett. It has the best, most competent, and most badass version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I would love to do that. Yeah, I would love to get into some more of the classic Marvel stuff, because I grew up on DC comics and I haven't really read a lot of the old classic good old Marvel times. When I was getting into Marvel, I went back to the classic editions, the Stan Lee stuff, like from the really beginning of Spider-Man, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men, and kind of going back from the very beginning. But I know there's a couple decades of some really great stuff more than before they started doing all the nonsense, woke nonsense. But yeah, it's a good, one thing I really need to read too and review. I'm a little nervous about it, but I really want to review Young Ripa's book, Isom. It'll probably be after Christmas at some point when I can get a hold of a copy or whatever. But I would like to review it. And part of me is nervous about reviewing it because I think there's and I have no idea. I'm 100% blank slate. I have no idea. It might be the greatest thing I've ever read. I might kind of think, I don't know. But if I did see some holes or some problems with it or whatever, I could see people piling on me like, how dare you, or whatever. But not that I would do it in a mean-spirited way or whatever. I would point out what I liked about it and, what I thought could use a little work here or there or whatever. But, it's such a big part of culture, and it's such a big part of the possible good part of culture to move in that direction that I would like to eventually read and review it. Studio Super, thank you there, says, I always describe the politics in our world as a Michael Bay movie without the popcorn or fun. Plot holes everywhere and explosions going off every 10 seconds. Yeah, that's about right. Well, it's people have talked about, it's that 24/7 news cycle, media cycle, that it just has to be anything they can do to get your attention, whether it's to frighten you, to titillate you, or whatever. Got to get your attention in there. I see Sound Engraver is trying to, ever so subtly, as my lovely wife will, remind me to mention her stream tomorrow night, 5:45 Eastern time tomorrow. Sound Engraver will have a wonderful stream, as she always does, and it's already posted, so you can go click the be notified on it so you don't miss it. Nathaniel Lozbaugh said, for Isom, you may have to buy issues 1 and 2. Yeah, because those campaigns tend to, like, you have to buy like the next campaign will come out and you have to buy or do you mean that there's the 1 and 2 is the best way to get the whole story? Maybe that's what you mean. I'm only going to be on here for a few more minutes myself here, but Spidey Rule said people play games like Grand Theft Auto for the same reason Catwoman is a burglar. It's a thrill of doing something wrong without facing any real life consequences. And I do get that. I'm not saying there's a problem or people do that, it's just not something that appeals to me so much. But that's the appeal of the anti-hero too. That's the appeal of a good Punisher story too, or Hulk story in a certain context. DFLS Studio says, I'm sure Young Rippa would enjoy your comments on Isom. Oh, I'd be shocked if Young Rippa even knew who I was. I'm like a AAA battery to his, 2000 volts, but yeah. But no, I would like to read and review it. So, gonna wrap up here in a second. Like I said, Sully, welcome Sully, said I really enjoyed in the Abnett landing run how the Guardians were created as essentially a military unit out of desperation to the point Peter Mantis used some underhanded means to create the team. Yeah, I mean, I know that when they first started out, of course, it was a totally different lineup. They went to a different place with the lineup from the movies. Though I like that lineup. It was in the comics at a certain point. Honestly, after playing the video game, and Soundgraver kind of feels this way too, and she hasn't even finished out the game with me. That's my ideal Guardians now as a video game, even more than the first two movies, which I liked. I liked the first two movies quite a bit. Eldridge fan said it would be pretentious for me to say I don't want to talk too much about my Star Wars story because someone might steal my ideas. No, I do. I understand that completely. Not only that, people wanting to steal your ideas, and it's a really good, it's good thinking. You don't want to do that. I know for myself too, there's also the added danger that I've told Soundgraver about this, if I have a really cool idea for a story, I can't talk about it too much or I'll lose interest in it. Like I gotta just let it percolate, and I let the desire to get this idea out in front of people drive me to actually finishing the story. Owen Lister, thank you so much. 1999 super chat, man, you are a generous person tonight. Really appreciate it. Celebrating your passing your temps there. Last super chat of the evening. The story I'm working on is called Embers of Retribution. That's a cool title, Embers of Retribution. The world is like a fictional version of America called Texona. That's cool. That reminds me of Red Dead Redemption. How they have like New Austin, is basically like their Texas. Texona, Texas meets Arizona. It's a spaghetti western meets Dragon Ball Z. Now that's even freaking cooler. You had me at fantasy western, but spaghetti western meets Dragon Ball Z. I'm there for that. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Wrapping up here. Oh, so Nathaniel Loseball talking about your last comment. He said getting 1 and 2 will give you most of the story. Okay, yeah. To my knowledge, this story is split into 3 parts. Issue 3 is being developed. Maybe I might wait until the 3rd story then, because it is I'll do it. I'll review issues. I reviewed part 2 of Joe Frankenstein the other day, and I did part 1. But it is so much more satisfying to have a whole story arc to review, So, yeah. All right, let me just do one backtrack to make sure I didn't miss any of these super chats. I don't think I did. Okay, because I'm going to wrap it on up here. But, yeah, hit that hour mark, and I'm just kind of done. But I'm excited to go veg, too, and enjoy a few days of break. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Alyssa was keeping me up and running and everywhere. And I'm finally done with teaching at the one university I teach at. I've got proper winter break. Now I got some grading to do, grading their finals and stuff like that, and putting grades in. But no more teaching, no more classes, which is awesome. So excited about that. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging out tonight. Really appreciate it. Great to see everybody. Great to talk with you all. Maybe next week you'll see me with even better webcam, and I'll cut some of this out. And I've got something else I was going to talk to as a side issue tonight, but it just didn't get around to it. So I'll probably make a standalone video about that. How to write a really timeless tale and what it takes to how timeless tales come about. Timeless is in there just like they permeate culture from generation to generation. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I don't think there's any one formula to do it. I think you kind of have to get lucky as well as do some things right. But might talk about that a little bit in a standalone video or something. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue non-preaching stories you love best. Thanks for watching.